sweet sound and one that free guitar. Turning pages we were years from learning, straight into the night our hearts would fall. Ooh, lonely dancer when you call. You know, I've dreamt of this aesthetic for quite some time. I hope that it lives up to the standards that I had at least thought about it having. I bought this gramophone while we were on vacation in Kansas. We were going to the Great Wolf Lodge. And it was kind of funny because I have been looking for a gramophone for years. I love music, for any of those of you out there who didn't already know about that. And I always just thought, I was like, how cool would it be to have a gramophone? And anytime we go to antique stores or wherever we go, that's kind of the one thing that I'm looking for. And so finally, we were going on vacation in Kansas City, and we go to this antique store, and I even tell my brother as we're driving up there, I was like, if I were to find a gramophone, I would be very tempted to buy it, but that's really the only thing I'm looking for anymore. And so we're at this antique store. It's a large antique store. There's stuff all over the place, and I'm huge about music, so I told them I was only looking for a gramophone, but I picked up CDs and vinyl and the stuff that I always pick up and plan to buy or whatever. And they had this strange attachment to the store, and it was like just kind of a one-time event thing. It's not like something that's always there. And so we were like, what the heck, we'll look at this and see what we find. And sure enough, there was this gramophone here in this attached store. And I actually was debating for a very long time as to whether or not I actually wanted the thing, because I was just like, I wanted it, yes, and it's here, yes, but there's always those reservations about spending money, or at least for me there always is. And ultimately, I wound up buying it, as you can see, and it came with all of these vinyls as well, which is kind of incredible because this gramophone was made in, when I looked it up online, it was either made in 1923 or 1929 or somewhere in that range of dates. And so I was like, well, okay. But it doesn't play like modern vinyl. So it plays at a 78 speed, but you can't play modern 78s on it because these vinyls are so thick they're almost like glass. And I'm sure if I were to break one or drop one while I'm working on it, that it would most certainly shatter. And so I figure out that the thing comes with vinyl discs to play on it, and a significant amount of them too. There's like 40 of them or 45. And so I was like, okay, well, you can't really pass that up. Like, for the price, it was reasonably priced. It functioned, or seemed to function, and it came with all of these discs as well. And so I was like, what the heck, you know what? You only live once. I hate to use that phrase, but you only live once, so let's go ahead and purchase the gramophone. And so I buy it and bring it home, find a place for it. I clean off one of the discs so I can see if it even works, and I quickly discover that it's missing a stylus. And I forgot to say, because like the tone arm on this thing is incredibly heavy, and so the reason it won't play modern 78s is because if you were to put the tone arm on it, it would literally crush a modern vinyl. That's why these guys are so thick, and they're like glass. And so, at any rate, they don't obviously have a stylus. I can't just go to a record store and buy a stylus. Plus, like, even in today's day and age with records and the return thereof, it's still relatively hard to find pieces for turntables. You mostly just have to replace the turntable that you have. And so I, at that point, was like, okay, well, that's going to be part of the adventure, trying to piece this thing back together, get it back into working order. And so I'm scouring the internet. Thank goodness for the internet. I couldn't imagine doing this without the internet. And I find someone on YouTube, on eBay, who is selling needles for this style of gramophone. And so I buy my needles, and I get my needles in, crank this bad boy up, and I get it to playing, but like the tone arm is so heavy that it's like weighing down the turning mechanism here on the string, or on the spring, and it slugs it down to a stop. So it'll play for a couple of seconds and then it'll just stop. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's part 2 of this adventure now, is I get to try and figure out how to get these things to actually play and stay playing and not just slow down to a stop every time I put the tone arm on it. And so I messaged the guy who I bought the needles from. I was like, do you know anybody who does repairs on these gramophones? Because my tone arm is so heavy and my springs are so weak that they won't play. Like if I try and put the tone arm down, it'll weigh down the vinyl to the point where it just gradually stops. And he was like, yeah, actually I know a couple of people. And so he sent me all their contacts information. He was a very nice guy. And shortly after all of that, I had my mom and my brother over, and I was just showing them, like, yeah, I got the needle, but it doesn't hold it long enough, or it's too heavy and the springs aren't strong enough to keep it turning. And so I cranked it up for him, cranked it up real good, and then I got to the point where I put the needle on the record and it actually played the whole thing. It didn't do its normal stopping weirdness. And so I was like, okay, so maybe my problem all along was just that I was not cranking it enough. And so sure enough, like that seems to be the consistent thing. If I'm wanting to play it, I just need to crank it nice and good before I can actually get it playing. But just an interesting little thing to have, just a way to feed your passions. And I've always been very passionate about music and the way in which I feel about it and the way in which it makes me feel, and just all of the sorts of things that come from the music and that it's produced. And the physical media to me has always meant more. I made a video, it's kind of funny actually. I made a video at the top of the year because I just got my CD shelf all put together and was doing some real cool stuff with it, and was talking about the effects of music on me as a whole. And then like this is kind of, I guess as you could say, a follow-up to that, as I'm expanding into different more niche categories thereof. And it's just, I was listening to a song last night that means a very lot to me. It's Holding Back the Years by Simply Red. And for me, like that song invokes the very feeling of aging. And it's hard to explain, obviously, like to explain feelings. I'm a writer and it's kind of my job to explain feelings, but even to that end, like I don't know that there's words enough in this world and time enough for those words to accurately describe a feeling. But a song can do so in a 3-minute time interval. That particular song's 5 minutes. I prefer my songs longer than shorter, but it's just fascinating to me that music holds that sort of power, that I can listen to this song and I don't even know if that's truly what the song is about. Like when Mikkel, I think that's his name, when he wrote the song, was that actually what he meant it to be about? Was it to encompass the very feeling of aging and that very weird thing that we all experience to a degree? Or was he trying to talk about or say something different entirely? Because like aging is this weird beast that we all face, that we all have to deal with, and to a degree, like we all deal with it differently. I'm at that strange age where I'm very nearing the end of my 20s and getting very close to 30, and like, yes, I acknowledge that I'm not old in that sense of the word, but I am still older than I once was and moving towards a different chapter in my life. And I've known the song Holding Back the Years for several years now, and it's always had that feeling of the effects of aging. That's always been how it feels to me. But it changes how it feels based upon like where I am with my life. And that is, for me, one of the truest powers of music, of storytelling, of anything really, is to be able to connect to someone or with someone over something that's seemingly disconnected or irrelevant or not even necessarily a thing, but it still evokes this level of emotion from someone hearing these things. And oh my goodness, I just broke this guy in half. Be careful. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but be careful when you're cleaning your records, because she's done for. And that was kind of part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because some of these were in pretty rough shape. And it looks to me like this one was being held together by the label. And when I got the label wet, she said, "All right, I'm done." So I don't know what to do with this, but that's part of the beauty of filming on the fly like I am. But at any rate, it's just amazing. These things, some of these things are over 100 years old. Like, let's see what the label on this one, let's see what it says. It's hard to read it in this dim lighting. I decided it'd be a great idea to do a video by candlelight. And I don't see a date on this one, actually. That's rude. It's going to make me look like a dummy because I can't find a date on it. U.S. Patent Office. I bet you it's on here somewhere, but it's so small it's hard to read. 1904 is what I'm seeing. 1904. That is well over 100 years old for this vinyl disc. And like, it still plays, the gramophone still plays. If it was built in 1923, which was the earliest I saw that this model was being built, that makes it exactly 100 years old this year. And this year's about over, so it's almost 101 now. But it's weird, and it's amazing to think about these things. Like, what has this gramophone's 100-year lifespan been like? How many years did it just spend hanging out in somebody's attic or someone's basement? They inherited it from a grandparent or someone who actually cared for it and wanted it, and then it got stashed away and handed down generation till generation until someone finally decided to sell it. And they sold it to me, and here I am trying to play it again. And it's probably like, dude, I haven't spun a vinyl on my turntable in decades, and you're over here trying to play me like it's 1923 again. But like, that's the kind of collector I am. I don't collect things just to look at them. I collect things because I want to use them, I want to play them, I want to have an experience with them. Life is all about experiences. When we're no longer around, or no longer able to experience the things that we once did, like, those experiences are the memories that we cherish. And it's kind of a dark and yucky thought, but if you get to a point where you can't even remember the memories and the experiences that you've had, then what do you have left in this world? And it's yucky to think about, but like, you think about aging and growing old and the big question of what comes next and all of that, but like, I don't want to exist in a state where I am so incapacitated that I cannot enjoy things anymore, and I cannot even remember the things that once brought me joy. Like, it's one thing to be bound to a wheelchair or something like that, but to still have your memories and your wits about you. But to be someone who just sits and merely exists in one spot while their mind slowly deteriorates, to me is no existence at all, and not something that I would want for myself. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The grand question of aging and the fear that you will get there before you are ready. And I feel like we all get there before we are ready. No one's ready to be old. No one's ready to grow old. Like, growing old is a part of life, and it's important to be comfortable with that, but no one wants to do so before they feel like it's properly time to do so. But time doesn't necessarily wait for us to feel like things are right before it just marches right along. And so we need to make a concerted effort to make the most of the here and now, and to make the most of today. And it's corny, and I honestly kind of hate the phrase. People always say that, live every day as though it was your last, and that's not a realistic philosophy to live by, because if I were living every day like it were my last, I would not be going to work ever, but then I wouldn't be able to function in the society that we've built for ourselves, because I wouldn't have any money, because I'm out here living every day as if I'm going to die tomorrow. But to the same end, there is a happy medium there. There is a place where you can live, where you are making the most of your life and your time as it's presented to you right now, whilst still dealing with the yucky parts of this existence that we probably would rather do without, i.e. working and the other yucky stuff that just comes with life. But like, finding that balance for yourself, I feel like, is very important. And it's a combination of things. Like, I love music, I love collecting music, and this is something that's just very, very important and very precious to me. But obviously it's not precious to everyone. That's why the digital revolution is happening, because people like me are the exception to the rule, not the rule. And so with that said, you have to figure out what it is for you. What it is for you that makes life worth experiencing, and worth experiencing today. Don't wait and say, oh, I can experience life when I'm 30, or oh, I can experience life when I'm 20, or oh, I can experience life when I'm 50. Like, no, don't wait, because you never know. No one knows how long they do or do not have. You could have 20 years in this world, you could have 50 years in this world, you could have 100 years in this world. You don't know. And what you really want is to be able to leave the world satisfied with the life that you had and the life that you led. And the best way to do that is to enjoy it right now, here and today. And people go back to that corny phrase of living in the here and now and all of that. And like I said, you just got to understand the balance of it all. Don't fall victim to the ideology that, yes, I need to live in the here and now and be today and be present, when you can't always do that, obviously, but you can do that 80-20. Like, that's a pretty good balance. I had to take a quick little drink. My throat's getting dry from all this talking. It is starting to smell very interesting in this house, because all of these candles are scented, and I like all of the scents except for one of them. So they're Scooby-Doo themed candles, and one of them was a Scooby snack, and the Scooby snack candle does not smell very good. And so the rest of the candles, these all came from Goose Creek. This isn't a plug by any means, but the rest of the candles smell pretty darn good. Scooby snack, I think, is supposed to smell like a baked good. I guess that would make sense, since the Scooby snacks are presented as a baked good, but it just doesn't smell great at all. But having all these candles burning at the same time is a bit much, because I just am getting all these smells at the same time. But at any rate, I don't mind it, I guess. I've been burning them since I bought them. I bought them for Halloween, and so I've been burning them off and on throughout. But yeah, some of them smell real good, and some of them don't smell so good at all. But that's part of the ambiance, and I kind of like candle burning. I know my mom really likes burning candles as well. and I never really thought anything about it until I bought these, and I was like, you know, this is kind of neat. It's an aroma. I don't know that I would burn candles in the summer. I'm a big seasonal guy. And so like I only drink hot beverages in the colder months. So like the winter and fall months are the only months that I actually drink hot beverages. And then from there, like soups and stuff like that, I only make soups in the winter and fall months. And so I don't know, I'm just a very seasonal person. So I don't foresee myself actually, burning candles in the summer and in the spring. But in the winter and fall, like, I could see myself doing this more often. It's nice, it's an ambiance, it creates this whole idea of like the holidays, and you're using fire for light so you have warmth, and it's just all around, it's a cool little thing to do. And so I might buy me some more candles and burn up some more candles. I was gonna keep these candles, or at least the jars that they're in, because online they looked really cool, these Scooby-Doo candles and jars and stuff, but like now that I have them, they don't look as cool as I thought they were gonna look, so I don't know if I'll keep them or not. I'm really bad about keeping glassware. I really like bottles and stuff. I think that they're really cool, and I don't reuse them, but I like to like just use them as decoration and stuff, and maybe I should put something in them so they're not just empty glass bottles. But something about glassware I like to keep, and I like to do stuff with it. And so whenever I acquire more glass things, I'm kind of dreading it, because I'm like, oh no, another glass thing for me to want to keep. And it's kind of funny, because usually it's like a spouse or something that's telling you this. Like, oh, do you need another whatever this thing is that you feel the need to collect? Or do you need another this or that? And for me, I'm self-checking myself, like, oh, do you really need another one of these? Or do you really need another one of that? And it's kind of funny. But I do feel like people, for the most part, have something that they collect. Like, I'm hard pressed to find anybody who doesn't collect anything. Like, I'm sure there's probably some like financial gurus out there who don't collect things. I watch a lot of financial gurus on YouTube in an attempt to try and do better with my own finances, which I feel like I'm already doing pretty dang good with. But at any rate, a lot of these gurus will kind of say the same things, which is like material possessions are bad, you want to pay for experiences and don't pile up on all this junk that you don't need. And to a degree, there's a point to that. Like, people do acquire just a lot of stuff, especially over the years. Like, I was moving out of my parents' bedroom, that didn't come out right. I was moving out of my bedroom in my parents' home into this house that I built for myself. And in doing so, I realized just how much stuff I'd acquired there too. And I was moving, and some of the stuff that I had is still packed up, like I haven't even done anything with it. And it just made me realize, I was like, golly, I have got a whole heck of a lot of stuff. And so there is a valid point to those people who say, like, yes, people we are prone to collecting things, we are prone to grabbing things that we don't necessarily need to grab. We're prone to all of these things, but to the same end, I feel like, once again, I'm going back to that finding a happy medium, finding a balance in it all that gets you what you need without excess. Because if collecting vinyl or glassware or elephants makes you happy, then do it. Because, as I've said before, the amount of time we have on this world is very small and short-lived. And if nothing else, do what makes you happy. And I was actually just talking to some friends on Xbox today, and we were talking about collecting things. and all the stuff we've amassed over time. And one of my friends jokingly said, just collect whatever the heck you want and whatever the heck makes you happy. And when you're out of this world and done with it, then it becomes someone else's problem. And they're not attached to your stuff, so they'll sell it or get rid of it or do whatever they have to do to get rid of it. But you had it your entire existence, and it made you happy the entire time. And that honestly was an unexpectedly satisfying statement coming from that particular individual. And so at that point I was like, that is a good point. And like, it feels kind of lame to push that off on the past generations. I'm gonna take another drink here real quick. I wonder if you can hear the sink in the background. Anyway, it feels kind of lame to push that off on past generations, but to the same end, like it's a lot easier for them to get rid of the stuff, because then it's just, if it's your kids, it's just, oh, this is dad's old junk. And some of it you'll keep because it means something to you, or you at least knew that it meant enough to your dad that you wouldn't get rid of it. And some of it you'll get rid of, because that's just the natural cycle of stuff. And then it'll be someone else's stuff until they pass it along, and so on and so forth, until it's destroyed or junked or whatever happens to it. But as long as it's bringing you happiness for the extent of your existence, then collect the stuff. Collect the stuff and be happy. Don't get all bent out of shape over, oh, I don't need another one of this, or I don't need another one of that. Just get it. If it brings you even a minute 20 minutes of happiness, just get it. Like, obviously don't go bankrupt buying stuff. Don't take that away from this channel and be like, that's what he's telling me. He is telling me that I need to buy myself out of house and home. No, that's not what I'm saying. Buy enough stuff to be happy. Spend enough money to be happy. Money is just a tool, really. It's a tool for three things, and I've thought about making a video about my theory on economics and how money should work, but I see it as a pyramid of sorts, in the fact that it exists for three things, and that is for a tool to further your own economic status. It exists as a means to get some level of happiness in this world, and it exists as like an emergency in case things blow up. And that's really, like, that's me breaking down my economic pyramid. That's not me being very philosophical about it. But you're either using money as a tool to grow your money, or you're using money as a way to pursue your own happiness. And if you're lucky enough, you can do both at the same time. So, like, for example, I am spending a decent amount of money these days on animation. I've always wanted to make my own cartoon, anime, whatever, you name it, I wanted to make it. And I'm finally in a financial state where I can somewhat afford to do that. And so I am putting some more money into that. And realistically speaking, that is using my money and my finances in both spectrums of the idea. So the idea being that, like, if this animation, this cartoon, this anime ever became something, it could make money for me. Like, I'm throwing a lot of money at it now, but if the world decided they loved it and wanted to see more of it, I could get royalty sales off of it. I could get money for views if it's on YouTube. I could do a lot of stuff with that. And so the idea is that not only is it something that brings me great joy that I can finally afford to be spending money on animation and these other glorious things, but it also could wind up being a financial tool for me. I could use it to further my financial gains and become more financially independent. And that's kind of the end goal too. And the goal goals, at least for me, are constantly changing. The closer I get to accomplishing one, then another one pops up. And this idea of financial independence is becoming more and more lucrative. The idea that I don't have to be owned by a business or by a corporation, and it's not an original concept. There's so many people out there who think and want this very same thing. But like, how cool would it be to be able to go to your boss and say, you know what, I quit, and I'm going to go make cartoons for a living. Like, nobody gets to say that, or at least very few people get to say that. And I am determined to be one of the few people who get to say that. And it's just an interesting ride, this life that we ride and this life that we are on, and the things that it presents to us and the things that we capitalize on and the things we don't capitalize on. And I could go out and make this animation and spend all this money on it, and then the whole world hates it, thinks it's the worst cartoon ever, and it doesn't go anywhere. But it at least makes me feel accomplished or happy that I was able to even do it. And so the idea being that I don't even know, like, I lost my train of thought. I was talking about the whole, like, so like the idea under the financial piece of it would be the idea that essentially I'm spending money and it feels like I'm spending money for fun, but I'm also spending money to be more proficient with my things. And I hate to cut this short, but my camera is going to die. It says I have 5 minutes of film left on it. And this has been a long video, and I have really enjoyed my time and this ambiance. I might have to fire it up again and just see what happens. I've got a lot more records to clean, so maybe next time I'll do it again and try and charge the camera a bit more. But I hope we had a cool, meaningful conversation about important stuff, finances, collecting stuff, and making yourself happy, and just kind of general good, feel-good stuff. And y'all keep making yourselves happy out there as much as you can and as little as you can at a time. And I'll see you guys next time. Like I said, I'll have to fire this ambiance up again. I really liked it.